Hey guys, hope you guys are having a solid weekend here. I'm a little late to send put this video together, but I really want to talk about my record month in the month of March and also my record quarter in my trading career. So much has culminated for me to get to where I am today, and I really want to talk about the tangible, the output, the results of my trading so far in 2025, as well as going over some of the mindset things and some tidbits and a lot of the questions that I get asked quite often, right? I'm hoping to answer some of those today for you guys as well. Um, I'm going to get straight into this right now. I'm going to go through the data first, and then I'm going to go into the mindset, the psychology, and my insights on trading prop firms and what have you. So right in front of you here, you can see what you see here in terms of stats is just between two specific prop firms. It is between my Topstep and it's between Tradeify. And so those are the ones that I hold the most in right now in terms of my time, my effort, and my execution. For many reasons. I think that for those who've been following me long enough know that the prop firm that I actually capped out with the fastest was Funded Futures Family, and that was because of the flexibility that that prop firm offered in terms of how to trade, execute, and also the payouts, right? Like there's really no cap to their payouts for the most part. I mean, obviously there's rules. I think it was like 60% of your P&L or whatever, right? But all in all, I mean, I don't trade them anymore because I'm just waiting to be moved live with them at the moment. But currently with these two, these are the two prop firms I will likely, I would probably get moved live probably sometime in Q2 is my guess, based on just currently the performance and execution. But you can see here on the stats here, I'm really proud of the results achieved here. Between those two accounts alone, $128,000 in P&L achieved. And again, this isn't payout. This is just P&L, right? Payouts are obviously different based on the rules. For those who know, Top Step, you can withdraw up to 50% of your P&L or 5,000 at cap per payout cycle, which is every 5 days. As well as Tradeify. Tradeify are kind of like what my fund of futures would be considered as milestone accounts. As long as you hit their consistency rules and their profit targets, you'll be able to get a specific amount of payout depending on the account you have. Now, understanding that no matter how much P&L you achieve within their 10-day cycle, you can only extract the X amount of dollars, right? So all in all, solid execution. Really happy with the win rate as well. I mean, 71%, super healthy. I mean, I think that when you have good R multiple, anything within 50 to 60% is stellar, right? And so if you manage to get anything more than that, that's amazing. I think a very popular conversation that is had among the trading space is what is better, win rate or R multiple? And I think it's my answer personally in my experience so far is it depends on who you are. I think from a psychology standpoint and a trading system, I think those are two things that need to coincide with each other well. And what I mean by that, and this is conversations that I've been having with a few people as of late, is there are so many great traders out there in the space, right? Two traders that I had started off with, stock market was where I initially started my journey, and then I moved on into with rate trades to learn options. 2 years ago, back in January 2023, I attended his mastermind, which is the best investment I've ever made. And so when I think about the trading styles, I would say that my trading system now is a hybrid of those two goats of their arena with a little bit of what I've evolved my trading style with over the course of time. And when I think about that is there is a time for me in my psychology where I will hold for the larger R multiples. And there are time in my psychology where I will just take my scalps for the market and I'll take my piece of the pie. And I think that depending on your psychology, it really does define what kind of trader you might find yourself being successful with. And why I say that is because, as for those who know you followed me, there are days where I've held trades for hours on ends, right? Where I've captured 300-point trades by holding it on for 2, 3, 4 hours, right? Not everyone has the psychology to do that, because during that time, it's not as simple as just watching your chart move and be like, okay, I'm gonna hit my profit target and it's all good and all done, right? The amount of emotions that go through your mind during that execution, should I trim here? Should I sell here? Should I just sell for now and then re-enter? Should I move my stop loss up? Should I keep moving my profit target? There are so many things that run through your mind when you're holding a trade for a larger R multiple. And so if your psychology isn't built for that, and I'm not saying you can't change, but for some, it's going to be harder. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't try and learn that because obviously it took me time to get there myself. But if you're wondering why you're struggling to, work a certain system or trade a certain system, it might just simply be that psychologically your psychology of trading, your personality might not be fitted to that trading system. And I say that, not just because of trading, but even in business. When I work with other entrepreneurs, I say the same thing, right? I think that your mindset towards your business is going to be reflected in your actions as well. So if you're trying to be, I'll use two very well-known brands, but if you're trying to be Microsoft, but when in your heart you're Apple, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be Microsoft because that's not who you are. And again, it doesn't mean you can't change, evolve, and do that. I'm just simply saying that if you're wondering why you're struggling with a certain system, it could just simply mean that your psychology doesn't fit well with that specific trading system, right? And so is higher win rate better? Is higher R multiple better? I think it really all comes down to who you are and how you trade. Of course, when you look at it from a binary perspective, which is what I talk about a lot as well, R multiple, right? It speaks for itself. It means that if you have a 3R multiple trading factor, that means you can fail multiple trades and still be profitable because your one win outweighs your three losses. And so obviously that's where you want to get to, right? Um, and so if you're hitting those larger home runs, that makes sense. But you can also be profitable in other ways. If let's just say you're only shooting for 1R trades, you know, from an R multiple perspective, or a person who's an R multiple trader, that might be like, ooh, that's really risky if you're only trading for 1R because it means that you're always one trade away from blowing your account, which is not wrong to be honest, right? But I think that that also depends on what you're going for in those win rates, right? And so, for example, if you're a trader that only scalps for 10, 15 points, but you know your probability of getting that is like 80, 90%, it's going to work for you. You'll still be profitable, right? In the same respect that if you're a trader that's shooting for 50 to 100 points, but you have a 50% win rate or a 40% win rate, you'll still be successful because yeah, you might risk, 20 points for every 50 to 100 points. So you might fail a couple times, but that one home run is going to get you back more, all your losses and more. So I mean, I think you just need to figure out as traders is that what is fitting for you. So I find that in both, I work with both ways. With Tradeify, I'm more of a scalp trader. I don't go for home runs because the prop firm, the rules, and all that don't really push me in the direction of where I need to. I find that I find more success in getting my payouts to Tradeify by scalping the market, by going after 15, 20 points during Asia, or 20, 30 points during London, or maybe 30, 40 points during New York session, right? That's where I find success. Whereas with Topstep, I'll hold my positions for a lot longer. I'll go for those 100-point moves. And that's because for them, there's no consistency rule. So I can have a 100-point trade today and only have 30-point trades for the next 4 days. And I can still withdraw with no concern that my consistency rule is not being met. So I think it's important that like you know yourself as a trader in your system and that when you're trading with different prop firms, you understand for yourself which system works best for different prop firms. Because I will tell you that although my technical analysis, how I read the charts, and all of that is the same, obviously, for all trades, but how I execute that trade on different prop firms will differ actually. And that might be an unpopular opinion, but that's personally how I have found success trading multiple prop firms up until this point. And it's where I would say when I culminate the past 4 months, because December of 2024 is where I found my consistency in futures trading with prop firms, culminating all that information over the past 4 months, that is where I have found success. And so in speaking to that as well, I mentioned about the whole binary trading aspect of things, right? It's understanding what your probability rates are, your risk, and all of that, right? And a conversation I had with a another mastermind student actually of Reg Trades just a couple weeks ago when I was in Singapore was we were talking about where you enter your trades and whether the risk makes sense. And so I'm going to pull up a chart here quickly, actually. I'll come back to the stats after. Um, this is a trade that I took actually just on Friday over the London session. And so we had a really large pullback here. And this is really large because, again, you don't get these kind of moves usually over sessions outside of New York. But from 578, we moved all the way down to 80, about to 100. So that's like a 400 some point move, right? That's massive. And so for myself, I've been watching this 18-100 area for quite some time, and I've been talking about this with a lot of people as well. And so some people ask, Alan, why did you take that trade? What made you think it wasn't going to keep going? I mean, I think the reality question is, I didn't know for a fact. I don't think any one of us can predict where the market's going to move. All I know is that I had captured this channel, specifically the bottom of it, which is the 18-100 area, as an area of interest. And so I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit more. This was an area of interest. And so for myself, I'll highlight that as a blue line, maybe just a white line, maybe. No, let's do blue line. There you go. So for me, when it came down, my trade was based on a risk. So I said, you know what? Based on my rules of the account that I was trading with, which was Topstep, by the way, I was willing to risk 20 points with two minis on this trade. That's $800. And so for some people, that's a lot. In the early journeys, that was a lot for me. I would usually not risk that much in one trade. But I also know that my personal internal daily loss that I'm willing to take on each account for Topstep is 1,200. So it was still within my risk. And so for me, based on my entry point here, I entered in based on the fact as we came down, right? I was willing to take the next trade and risk 20 points. And so the candle itself didn't show any reason for this to pull up, right? It was a bear trend. It was continuing to move down. But for me, it was a matter of it was an area of interest. And I believe there was also a mastermind level. I resetted my charts already, so it's not there. But it was an area of interest for me. And so taking an entry at 18-100, my risk of 20 points would have been 1880, meaning if it were to come all the way down here, that is where I would have gotten stopped out. So I was risking 20 points on two minis for this trade. If I was wrong, I was going to be wrong fast, right? But it worked in my favor. I looked at this as a relief bounce, right? I don't know if there's a technical terminology around. I just call it a relief play because I call it that because whenever the chart is moving in a direction and a very strong momentum, there generally will be some sort of a minor pullback. I don't call it a pullback because it's still within the prior candle bar range. So I wouldn't consider it a pullback. I'll just call it a relief pull up, right? I was counting on a relief pull up at an area of interest. And so when I took that 20-point risk, I captured a 100-point trade because between 18-100, it moved all the way to 18-200 and I sold. And so it did pull up, as you can see, but I sold the moment as it was wicking back down because that was more than I was looking for already. I was looking for relief, but it was the action was strong. So if you think about it, I was risking 20 points to make 100 points. That's a 5R return. So that was 4 grand within a 2-minute candle. That was insane. I know that that type of action doesn't always happen. So I can't now. So and now I'm kind of talking on psychology is I can't let behaviors be validated just because I caught it once. And why I'm saying that is because during London and Asia, I usually don't look for such large moves. It's not every day you get this, but obviously because between what Trump's been talking about and the tariffs and all that, the market's been responding. And so there's been a lot more volatility in the market, right? But for myself personally, I'm content with that trade, but I'm not, I'll tell you right now, when Monday starts, Tuesday starts, I'm not looking for a 100-point move like that again within 2 minutes over London because the expectation needs to be managed, right? I don't expect that again. If I get it, fantastic, but I am not expecting that kind of move again. Anyways, I want to just capture that because I had some questions around that specific trade. But that kind of speaks to the whole binary aspect of like what my risk is, what my reward is, and exiting with that with zero FOMO, right? Of like, oh, I could have caught 120, 140, 160, or I could have said, oh, if I would have held it all the way here, I could have caught 250-point trade in 4 minutes. And then I could have bragged about it afterwards. Not important. I'm trading because of what I want out of the market. And binarily speaking, I was wanting 20 for 100, right? And I got that. I'm happy. I'm content. I move on. I can tell you right now after this, because of knowing myself, I stopped trading and I stopped looking at the screens. Because for me to make that much in 2 minutes, it does not bode well for me psychologically because I'm going to tell myself, ooh, What if I could do that again? Right? And more likely than not, I'm going to give money back, right? And so I did walk away after that trade. So digressing back here again, I also want to go through some of the other stats quite quickly, and I'm going to play into my other 2 points, which is around copy trading and the mentals of acceptance and mindset of abundance, right? So this was my Tradeify account as my March finish. Very strong win rate because again, I was scalping for most of the time. I did have a really big day on one of the accounts, which is why it's showing that it was such a big day. Now, mind you, that this is a culmination of 5 Tradeify accounts, right? So that's why you can equal up to that, right? If you see the best day at like 4,300, if you think about it, even though I don't copy trade, if you copy traded though, that's $800 times 5 accounts, right? So it's not an excessive amount. Um, but you can also see my consistency on this, right? Like, I mean, out of the 25 days traded, I had a 12-day win streak, which is pretty solid to be perfectly honest. But this just speaks to the mindset and the method of trading that went behind this, right? This is also the calendar to show you out of all the days in the month, I really only had one losing day. And so all in all, the position or the month overall was a very strong month, all things considered. But as I mentioned earlier, this is the account that I scalp with the most, right? And so I'm not looking for those longer, bigger trades. Now, with the next one, this is the strongest P&L I've ever achieved out of a prop firm outside of Fund of Futures family. And this is Topstep, right? So you can see that my win rate isn't as high, but my bigger days were bigger for sure. And you can see that already here. I, based on the stats you can see already, I didn't have a single losing day on Topstep. And I'll tell you that is super humbling to share. And also expectation wise, I will not have this expectation going into Q2. I cannot emphasize that enough. Just because I had a consistent month like this doesn't mean I expect it again the next month. Part of trading is knowing that every single day we are risking capital. Our capital is going to war and there will be casualties, right? We need to accept that. Not every day is going to be a battle won. And I think the better that we can accept that in our minds mentally, the better we will execute and the less likely we will tilt because we know it is part of the game and we could put our pride and ego aside. Also, when it comes to the mindset of abundance, for those who missed out on this week for any reason or didn't execute well, there will be days like this again and again and again. And I'm sure you hear this from many other traders, and it's true. The market has been around here longer than we've been alive, and it will be around here longer than we will be alive. And so it is important for us to reset our minds every day. Don't think about, oh, I need to make back what I missed out on yesterday or last week or the month before, or I need to make back my loss from yesterday because the market doesn't care about the money you lost. The market doesn't care about the money you made. The market does what the market does. What you do and how you react is the story you tell yourself. And so if you work your mind up to tell you that you need to make this up, your executing behavior is going to reflect that, right? And so I think it's important for myself. I'm sharing this as a person who had a really successful month. I'm super pumped, very happy, and super excited. But I am going into April being defensive and saying, you know what? I'm not going to expect this every day. I'm going to stick to my system, how I trade Topstep, how I trade Tradeify, and many other props, so that I can continue to be consistent with my payouts. Okay. So there's that component. Now, kind of last thing I want to talk about was the whole copy trading, individual trading. I get this asked a lot. Alan, between the two, why do you do it? This is actually a part of the mental game. Yes, does it put a lot more work for me into having to feel like I might need to trade every day? Yeah, it does. I would say that is the con to trading individual accounts at the masses that I'm doing it because just between not Apex, sorry, just between Tradeify and TopStep, I have 10 accounts. So you're gonna feel like, oh, I have to trade 10 times a day. So it does that is the con to individually trading. You might feel the need to forcefully take trades for those reasons. But because I know that that's a blind spot to doing this, I am very cognizant of that. And so that is a rule that I have to put in place for myself to be disciplined to understand that that's going to be, if I'm going to tilt, that's where I'm going to tilt, right? To acknowledge that reality. I posted this on Instagram not too long ago about, about the accountability ladder, but that's what I was referencing, right? It's accepting that reality. Now, the reason why, though, I like individually trading is because it offers me more reps, as in like, like if you're going reps at the gym, same concept. It offers me more reps in the market and it gives me more screen time on the market so that I can have the confidence to be able to read the chart analysis and react to the charts better because I see how it moves more often, right? Um, and on that note, by the way, I will also say, I will say Jake Ritchie, Rake Trades, he is a goat for being able to swap between so many asset classes and be successful trading all of them all the time. Because I'll tell you right now, that is a skill that I don't think I will ever master. Um, it's very, very difficult, but he does it, which is amazing, right? But for the masses of you guys out there, don't feel that that's what you need to do either. I find that right now, where I found success is that I trade primarily one asset, and that's the NQ. Maybe 5% of the time I will trade gold, but 95% of the time or more, I will trade the NQ because that's what the one I always watch in its behavior and how it reacts, understanding the probability of its movement, its range, and all of that, right? And so I just, for those out there dabbling in RTY, YM, ES, NQ, GC, all of that, again, I think it's you're making it harder for yourself if you're trading multiple asset classes. Stick to one, maybe two, but I would say one personally. It will help with your consistency. That's my 2 cents on it. But back to the whole individually trading, why I like it. I will explain 2 reasons as to why I like it. One is for mentals, and the other one, well, actually, both is kind of for mentals, but the other one's also kind of financially related. Um, if I trade 10 different accounts, for example, 10 different times, if I take an L on 2 accounts, I won't be upset as much because I know I still have 8 other chances to get a dub under my belt to capture that win, right? And so if I'm trading all of them and I get my win on 8 accounts, but I lose on two, those two losses don't hurt me as much as if I were to copy trade them all. Because let's just say I start off the market and I start off rocky, right? I take my first trade, I lose. I take my second trade, I lose, right? If I copy traded 10 accounts and I lost twice, I'm done. Either I stick to my rules and I'm done, and I'm just done for the day, or I will mentally tilt because I've lost twice on 10 accounts. And so when I say loss, I don't mean just because as in losses and I was wrong, but because the trade didn't work out. If the trade didn't work out twice for me, that's going to hit my daily loss limit most likely. It's very likely going to hit it, right? And so I think for myself to refrain myself from tilting and to refrain myself from getting to that situation, I trade each of those counts individually so that I give myself the time to practice and react to the charts and not tilt, right? Because in the mindset of risk to reward, the ability to win on 10 accounts in one trade, although sounds amazing, I know that losing on 10 accounts at once is far more detrimental and it will affect every trade I take after that. And so without taking a short-sighted view of trading, but instead taking a long-term view, I am not willing to tilt on one trade, which can cause me to fail the next 10, 20 trades I take after and go on a losing streak, right? It is more important for me to protect not just my physical, but my mental capital so that I can be consistently trading over and over and over again. Because even though I have had losses on my trades, it doesn't affect me as much because I know that overarchingly, when I look at all the individual counts, I'm still winning. So the confidence to execute is there for me, right? That's why I take that path because it helps me mentally and it helps me from a financial standpoint as well, right? And so for those like, again, this the last thing I'll touch on actually, here is that when we talk about prop firms, take your time at it, right? I'm just going to use an example of like a 50K straight to funded account with Tradeify. If you were to take one of those, I think with the 35% or 30% off, it's like 320 or $300 USD for one account. Right now, I think the special in April is like 40% off if you've never used them before, which will get you below $300 USD. But let's just say you get that one account, okay? Instead of rushing it and going for those home runs, in from a binary perspective, if you just hit $300 per day for 10 days, following the 10-day rule, you will hit the $3,000 profit target, right? And you will be able to get their payout of 2 grand based off that. Now, we won't talk about drawdown and all that stuff into this, but I'm just simply just talking about the binary investment of 300 USD for an account to a $2,000 payout at the end of it, right? That's nearly a 7x return on investment. Why rush the process, right? Because if you can get there, you can always reinvest that 7x and you can buy 4 more accounts and you can scale that afterwards, right? And so I think patience is so important because I think for most people, whether you're Canadian, American, or wherever you are, if you could make $2,000 additional on the side on top of your day job, wouldn't that be life-changing for you? Why rush it? Why rush that process, right? And I say that in a month because, yeah, the rules say 10 days. Well, let's say it takes you 30 days. If it takes you 30 days to make it to 3,000, that's $100 a day. You make $100 a day on that account, you hit your $3,000 profit target. Then you could extract up to $2,000 of USD on that account. So I think that just from a prop firm trading perspective, I'm just noting that because I think sometimes we fall too quickly into the gamification of prop firm trading. We also get too caught up in the motion of the ocean that is the market, and then we start chasing, we burn accounts. And so save your mental capital, save your physical capital, focus on execution of the charts, remind yourself of the end game, the end goal in mind of what you're trying to achieve and you'll be surprised what you can do when you can actually sharpen your mind, be laser focused, be disciplined, and not allow yourself to fall into that torrential psychological tilt that is the market. I know that was probably a long spiel, but I felt like there was a lot to share, and it was an amazing trading month and an amazing quarter. I guess I could share quickly here as well, but like you can see here, January was 111, February was 52, and March was 140. So a really exceptional quarter from a P&L execution perspective. Again, I'm super humbled. I'm looking forward to having a record year. I've had a record month, a record quarter. I don't even care if I don't have another record month for the rest of this year. That's not important to me. The output and the goals, they're just there. They're there just to keep me competitive. But in the end of the day, on all else fails, you fall back to your system, and your system is what keeps you going consistently, right? So I hope that adds value. Please drop a like. It helps a lot with the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed already, it means a lot and it helps me out as well. I'm a new trader growing in the space, trying to figure it out, just like all you guys out there. In no means am I a big time trader. I take losses as well. I'm just trying to figure it out myself, right? So if there's any comments, drop a comment on the below as well. It will help me out. And I'll try to answer any questions you guys have as well. Until next time, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.